What is going on, guys? Near freezing conditions today. Really cold, frosty, wet, miserable. Rivers have been flooded, but last night they dropped about ½ meter. So I'm down here, I've got the medium set up, I've got the light set up. We're just gonna see what we can catch. Let's get fishing. Water is absolutely racing through here this morning. We're up about, I don't know, ½ meter, 3/4 of a meter still from where this river likes to sit. So it's still quite flooded. All of this is usually stuff you can stand on, and despite this not being one of my favorite pegs at the venue, it is definitely worth checking out. Just running a fairly light mini craw. I say fairly light, 7 gram today actually, so quite heavy for these little mini craws, but with that additional flow I need to kind of get it down and through as quick as I can. I'm not doing anything crazy, no crazy chucks at the minute. We might put on something slightly heavier to fish the middle for Zander, but otherwise we're just going to try and target a few little perch in the margins, a few little pike with this mini craw I think as well. I've got wire on, so we're perfectly good to do that. I almost went to the canal today, I was so worried about the flooding, but with that huge drop of water overnight, nice bit of sun today and some clearer conditions, I thought it was worthwhile coming down. A couple of quick runs just along the margins. I'm not going to be able to fish fast with a tailed bait like this mini craw through the middle. We've got some other baits for exactly that purpose. Fox Racing Pro Grub will be the bait to get me relatively easy hits, I think, today, if the fish are feeding. Some of the retrieves are going to be fairly slow, but with the increased flow, the increased pace of the water, fish do tend to move out of the main flow and into the slack areas, which means you can kind of target where fish are going to be a little bit easier. So when the rivers are up, when it's a little bit flooded, or even if you're just fishing a venue that that has a lot of movement in it, look for those slacks, fish those slacks, and you'll probably find pike. This isn't a bad place or way to fish though. Just get your bait running along the margin, bring it in reasonably quick, keep it out of any of the snags, and just see if that turbulence, if that disturbance that you're making can entice a pike into having a hit. Often that is a good way to get hits. Just encourage them to kind of come and take a look at your bait. They are an oddly, I want to say inquisitive, but it's probably more a case of being opportunistic. You know, they have a tendency to hang out and ambush things, and what we're hoping to do is run this bait right by a hungry pike, finding the right lines. At the minute, you know, I'm trying to target down these kind of edges of kind of margins. Any of these slacks, there's a little bit of movement down there, but I think I've just spooked probably a nice perch or something. We'll try that same run again, just push them a little bit further out and away. We can get a good cast on this thing. We've got a pretty reasonably weighted lure for my 10 to 40 gram medium setup. We've got on 15 gram jig head and a 20-ish gram lure. Puts us right in that window, and it just means that you can get a decent cast. That is usually the case with rods. You know, they're weighted or built for casting particular weights, and yes, you can cast outside that. You'll find that if you're chucking lighter baits on heavier kit, you just won't get the casts you need. And then if you're casting heavier baits on lighter kit, not only will you not get the casts you need, you do stand the risk of breaking your rod with that kind of sudden shock. I'm not saying that's going to happen necessarily. I've definitely overweighted this rod. I've definitely overweighted this lighter rod that I've got down here. However, I have one lighter rod than this that I overweighted only by a couple of grams, but it was enough with a heavy cast that it just snapped the rod in two. It was to kind of top things off, a pretty cheap rubbish rod as well, so yeah, it's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but it can be avoided by using kind of appropriate things, and you'll find that you'll get a better fishing kind of cast and retrieve and things with appropriately weighted kit as well. Let this one sink right down. Now, this isn't a bait that I typically get a lot of attention on the drop. It can work for that. It is still a tail bait, and it can be rigged to drop a lot slower. I tend to use these, or I used to use these a lot on a 5 gram jig head, and they were beautiful for kind of dropping slow on slow stretches of water and retrieving slow along the margins. But what they also do is, if you weight them a little bit heavier, you get a lot of attention on the way down. I don't tend to get a lot of hits, but you can bounce it along the bottom, or you can keep it right near the bottom and just go with this slow straight retrieve. And one of the beauties with this lure in particular is it does work really well for that slow straight retrieve. I have had most of my fish on these lures with just a slow straight retrieve. Of course, you can incorporate your pauses, your bumps, your things like that, but you don't necessarily need to with this lure. So I'm just gonna keep a little bit of tension in the line just to watch where it hits the bottom. Deep river this, especially with the extra bit of flooding. There we go, there's the bottom. I'm just gonna try a few bounces along the bottom whilst I'm here. Not entirely convinced it'll be the approach that works for me today, but it's always worth trying to kind of shake things up a bit when it's a slowish day. I might pop on a just a slim shad of sorts, maybe a vibe worm, or impact swing style bait, with sticking with this kind of 7 gram jig head that I've got, egg shaped one. I can just bounce things along the bottom. I do also have some really nice creature baits, and if things are hanging in the margins a little bit more, perch and things like that, staying out of the flow, then it could be a good option to get some nice floodwater perch out. This sort of kind of coming into autumn, it's supposedly one of the better times to catch some of the bigger perch, especially on creature baits, but I've still not nailed the technique yet for catching them. So practice is all I need. I switched up my braid on this. I'm down to a 0.06 mil braid, and it is very light. It is, you get a slight blow of wind, not even a gust, just a light breeze, and all of a sudden you are kind of facing your line being dragged off, kind of like silk and spider web style stuff. But it does mean that the finesse game, you really need a nice light day, next to no breeze, which is apparently what we've got today. The only thing I need to do is kind of downsize things and lighten stuff up, and we'll be right in there, able to kind of finesse the fishing a bit more. Just try this lure along some of these quieter edges. Good cover here, and I've got, there's no reason a good perch shouldn't have a go at a bait like this. The drunk dancer. This is the mini Craw from Fox Rage. It is one of my favourite baits for fishing. One of my favourite baits for fishing kind of smaller waters, where there are a lot more smaller pike around. Find them an invaluable lure to have in the box when the fishing is a bit smaller, when the fish interested are a bit smaller. It's usually the one bait that kind of cleans up for me, the one that usually offers the best kind of versatility. And I have had Perch and Zander on it as well, or at least I've had Perch hit, I've had Zander on it. But they'll definitely go for it, and people swear by it as well as a perch bait. I think you just need to really slow things down on it. A lot of small fish right in front of me. Definitely a good spot to try bumping a bait along the bottom, I think. But we'll switch that up in a second. Try a couple of these pegs again with a different bait on. A lot of good movement. Down towards my left here, this is one of my favourite little perch spots. One of my favourite little Zander spots as well, actually. So we're going to run this one through fairly slowly. See if we can get a fast perch. We're in. Felt like a hard hit, big fish. Pike perhaps. Tighten that drag just a touch. Oh, Zander. Stay out of that snag, please. Still got a lot of power, this fish. Trying to snag me. Trying to snag me. Tighten up that drag a little bit. Oh. And in. First winter Zander from the river. Nice fish. He's looking about 3, maybe pushing 4 pounds. He's a good length. We're yeah, I'm excited to keep fishing now. That's for sure. That was on the light kit. Happy days. What a fish. Let's try again, guys. I like that for a fish. A nice slow retrieving is all I was doing. It was a good show that these mini craws can pick up a Zander. You know, let that be proof. And that wasn't too bad a Zander either. It's getting up there with some of the bigger Zander that I have caught, but they most certainly get bigger than that. Well, even if that's all I catch today, I'm happy with that. I'm a happy little guy. I love catching a Zander. They're definitely one of my favorite fish to catch. This is the first of a few spots I've been really excited to fish with this slightly heavier, well, it's only my medium kit, you know, a great little slack. There's a lot of reeds stopping flow. There's this little cutout here stopping flow further, and we've got a couple of little accesses to margins. I don't think it's going to be hugely easy to fish, but there's plenty of opportunity, so we'll give it a go. There's little sections like this that should be holding good fish. On a day like today, I can probably just about get into them. I would use lighter kit in here, but it looks quite snaggy today, so we'll just stick with the heavier guy. Thought that was a fish. Unfortunately not. Just about to flick him out, but no, we've got a little bit of weed on the line. And even though I've caught plenty of fish whilst we've got kind of weed trailing the bait, hanging on the hooks, you know, you don't want to limit your hookup chances. You don't want to ruin kind of the presentation of your bait, how it's swimming and things like that. You know, to reiterate, you don't need to have things perfectly clear, but you'll get a better presentation of your bait in the water. If your hooks and your lures are clear, you'll get better swim patterns. And you know, another point to mention is you can get better hookup rate if your hooks are clear. You don't want to prevent fish, you know, getting past that barb and things just because there's a little bit of weed on the line, a leaf, a twig, or anything like that. So keeping your lures and your hooks clear is always the best advice. We'll have a little chuck a little bit further out. As I said, this is a good spot in the spring and autumn times when it's not raised and stuff to get fish in. You've got some really nice deep pockets, and there's been some really big fish coming out of this spot. Just coming across the flow now, so we can slow things right down. Don't need to reel fast because we've got the flow behind us or anything, and we can just nudge, 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 and then bang, fish. Thought that was real. Well guys, it was only the one in the end, not exactly what I was expecting. In my session after that first fish, I thought there was going to be lots of attention from Zander, maybe the occasional nudge from a perch. I probably got 1 or 2 knocks after that. That's it. I fished for about an hour. I'm packing up, I'm going home. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.